Hey everyone, my name's Wesley, and welcome to my first Tem tier list, trademark pending on the name. Just kidding. I thought I'd start things off in an obvious fashion by ranking the Temtem you can find on the first island being Deniz. I will be ranking the final evolution of every Temtem, so the earlier Temtems can't influence me by being too cute and pushing them up higher onto the tier list. I'm looking at you, Saku. Let's get things started with Gazuma. Genki can be found very early on in the game, making it a viable pick for your team throughout the first island. It's currently the strongest electrical type we have access to right now, and it learns very powerful moves like Electric Storm at level 32, which can basically wipe an entire water team. It is also exceptional when it comes to the first island and can basically sweep the entire island by itself, which is why I'm ranking it at S tier. Next we move on to Grandpa. Grandpa is very easy to get, albeit the earlier stages of evolution, but unfortunately it doesn't rank very highly in any of the stats. It also has poor technique coverage, basically only learning wind and normal type damaging attacks. The only situation I see it being useful in is with the trait Bully, where you throw it on at the end and use it to help wipe out a slightly stronger opponent that you have left over. For that reason, I'm going to have to stick it at E, unfortunately. I know the gold and black Luma is pretty cool, but unfortunately that isn't going to swing me at all. Next we move on to Cannabis. Cannabis, I'm sure if any of you have tried to farm for Bashira, have caught about 1,000 of these, at least. But it suffers from a similar situation to Grandpa, where it doesn't have high base stats. The stats that it does do well in are health and defense, but most attacks against Cannabis will be of the special nature, being electric, which means it won't be utilizing this high defense stat. It also has a fairly solid attack stat, but only learning 2 stab physical attacks doesn't make it the greatest option to use as a physical attacker, which is why Cannabis is also going to be stuck at tier E. Next up we have Loali and Saku. I'm going to do these two together because they are very similar Temtem in that you can catch both their earlier evolutions very early on in the game, and they evolve at similar levels and are the same type, etc. Loali has the second highest base stats of any Temtem, while Saku is stuck at number 40. However, in my opinion, that's where Loali's pros end and Saku's starts. Saku's first nature damaging move can be learnt at level 11, which is Sharp Leaf. Its first wind damaging attack can be learnt at level 14, whereas Loali's first wind damaging attack can be learnt at level 11, and its first nature damaging attack is only learnt at level 44. Once again, not counting if you go back and breed it to get egg moves, etc. In my opinion, if you're just going to be playing the story mode, I would strongly suggest using Saku, as the early nature move and the option to throw Noxious Bomb on it makes it a much more viable option for Island 1's water types and Island 2's nature types. Loali could possibly be the better option in late game competitive PvP, just as it can be a bit of a sleeper tank with moves like photosynthesis regenerating its health and its higher base stats just being generally better for competitive PvP. I therefore rank Loali at tier B and Saku at tier A. Next, we move on to Nessa. Nessa, unfortunately, doesn't excel in any of the stat areas. It has fairly mediocre overall base stats, and unless you raise it from level 1, it only learns its first water damaging move at level 32, and Electric Storm, the most powerful electric type attack, at level 44. Nessa's main use, in my opinion, is for training and being a tricky Temtem to actually take out with its electric type weakness eliminated by its actual electric typing. It pairs very well with another electric type like Genki or Gazuma. You could even throw in another Nessa and use Chain Lightning. Its electric synthesize ability allows it to heal itself when it takes electric damage, so attacking the enemies with Chain Lightning basically can heal up your own Nessa. For that utility, I'm going to have to rank Nessa at tier B. Next we move on to Bashira. Straight off the bat, Bashira has the highest base stat total in the game. It has the highest special attack being 110, with the next highest being Whip Lump with only 95. It also has the highest speed with Ukuma, and later on when they add mounts to the game, it's going to be a mount. So if you haven't already gotten Bashira, you should definitely get one in preparation for that at the very least. Its high special attack stat pairs perfectly well with the fact that it can learn extremely powerful special attack type moves. But I will say this, I don't recommend that Bashira is used as your starter Temtem in a battle. Just because its low stamina means you're getting off 2 attacks and it starts to damage itself, especially in the early games. Bashira, in my opinion, is best suited as a quick change Temtem where the enemy has thrown out 1 or 2 fire types, or a fire type and an earth type, and you can throw Bashira on, use Tsunami, and basically wipe the entire team. Then take it off and rinse and repeat. When used like this, you counteract its low stamina, and for that reason, it's an easy S tier and joins Gazuma up on that podium. Now, a Temtem that a lot of people have slept on, PickAPick. PickAPick? PickAPick. Whichever way you want to pronounce it. PickAPick. I'm going with PickAPick. PickAPick has very high base stats due to the fact that it doesn't evolve, which means it has to have high base stats to start with. Otherwise, it would be left behind in the dust. Its highest stats is special defense, meaning it copes slightly better than most wind type against its biggest weakness, electric. PickAPick can also be a very tricky Temtem to counteract in competitive PvP battles. Throwing on a pillow and using the moveset Bamboozle, Turbo Choreography, Relax, and your choice of attacking move can be very tricky, where you use Bamboozle on your other Temtem, they can't attack it. You use Relax, everyone goes to sleep, your PickAPick regains health due to the equipped pillow, and then using Turbo Choreography, giving both your Temtems an increase in speed. It just becomes very tricky to deal with unless you can nuke it with 2 electric types or something along those lines. The Fainted Curse ability, also knocking off 40% of the attacking Temtem's health, is quite a nasty trait to have to deal with, which is why I'm ranking PickAPick at A. Next, Brownie Ant. I personally just think Brownie Ant is a mediocre Temtem. There are other far more superior water types, and to me, the only time I'd use it is if you don't already have a good water type and you do the quest that allows you to get the kids Pukey with really good SV values. But I'd rather use that just for breeding water type Temtems, as it is a male, if I'm not mistaken, allowing you to breed it with a female from another water type family and get good SVs on that Temtem. So for me, Brownie Ant is stuck at D. Sarpat. Sarpat has a very solid HP stat, being one of the highest in the game. Its decent attack stat pairs very well with the fact that almost all its damaging moves are physical. It also has excellent type coverage on its techniques that it can learn, covering toxic, water, and fighting. It is also one of the earliest water type Temtem you can get in the game without the surfboard. For that reason, I'm throwing Sarpat up to B. Almost an A, could actually probably put it at a B.5, let's call it. Next we move on to Scotch. Scotch has really good base stats with a good spread across HP, speed, attack, and defense, which is what you want on a melee physical attacker. It also is one of your earliest coverages against the crystal type that you could run into with people having crystal or Anahir or something along those lines. Unfortunately, it does have a double weakness to mental, meaning it can be basically wiped out with anyone who has Who Kick or Tental on their team. But if you see them switch out to that, switch your Scunch out. I just wish the special attack stat was higher on Scunch, as it would pair really well with Inner Spirit, which is currently the highest damage melee ability. For these reasons, I'm going to rank Scunch at tier C. Next, we move on to Teteru. Teteru is the 4th highest base stats Temtem in the game. It has very high stamina and an even spread across the rest of the stats. Training Teteru to have high attack TVs leads to a good early game sweeper, or not necessarily sweeper, but clutch Temtem. Starting a new game and getting a terrier on your team can be very surprising when you use something like Heavy Blow and see it just chunk away the enemy's health bar. Unfortunately, it isn't the greatest after Island 1, and for that reason I'm going to have to drop it down a bit to tier C. Next, we move on to another water type, Ukuma. Ukuma is the 5th highest stat Temtem in the game right now. It is tied highest for speed and has very high stamina, tied with Teteria actually. Its solid special attack pairs very well with the fact that it learns mostly special type moves. It unfortunately suffers when it comes to defenses. Both defense and special defense are quite low. Oshira also suffers from this problem, but I feel like Ukuma is not in the same class of Temtem as Oshira. If Ukuma was more tanky with its higher stamina and slightly lower special attack, it would be much better suited for a different situation to Oshira, where you can throw it out as your starting Temtem and keep it out through most of the battle. Whereas Oshira's low stamina means it's much better suited for switching in. And I feel like Oshira currently does its job a lot better than what Ukuma does as a slightly more tanky water type. For that reason, it's going to be tier A for me. Next is Whiplump. Whiplump is currently the 3rd highest base stats in the game. Its high stamina, special attack and special defense make it a fairly solid Temtem. Its only blinding flaw is that it has a double weakness to electric, and most people are running a Gazuma on their team right now. Whiplump's greatest use for me at the moment is for capturing Temtem. You can use it to freeze a Temtem, which makes it much easier to capture, increasing your capture rates. And for this reason, I'm going to put Whiplump at tier B. And there you have it. That sums up my tier list for the first island in Temtem. What you may have noticed is that currently the top 5 base stats Temtems in the game are currently able to be caught in Island 1, which is quite crazy. You'd think it would be some of the stronger Temtem like Gialis or Anahir or something like that. So if you enjoyed this tier list and you want to see a new one for Island 2, please let me know in the comment section down below, or smash that like button. I'd also really appreciate if you could subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another video. And I hope to catch you all in the next video. Goodbye.